What's sweeter than saying I do? Saying we do with your new blended family. If you're scratching your head trying to figure out how to involve your kids or stepkids in your wedding ceremony while steering clear of the more cliché rituals, you're in for a treat. I found 8 creative, symbolic, and yes, even delicious ways to celebrate your blood or found family in your special day. So if you're ready to find out how to make your wedding unforgettable by weaving some story and symbolism into your ceremony to make your family feel honoured and special, stick around. Let's get stuck into it. Unbridely is a community of pro-wedding vendors who believe in freedom and integrity in weddings, giving you options, solutions, tips and tricks to create the experience and memories that you and your fiancé really want and deserve. Because we believe that weddings are a team sport. With how-tos, stories and interviews with recently married couples, we find out what went right and what they'd change if they could go back and do it all over again. I'm Camille and welcome to the Unbridely podcast. Hi mate, and a very warm thank you for joining me to learn a bit more about how to recognise and celebrate your unique family dynamics in your wedding ceremony. Because while a meaningful ceremony is great, stretching your creative muscles a little to explore new ways of showing people that they mean so much to you is what makes the sentiment stick. So if your wedding ceremony is not only about you and your fiancé, but also about the merging of two families, particularly when children from previous relationships are involved, this episode is for you. While unity sand, unity candle, and hand fasting rituals are popular for a reason, it's time to delve a little deeper and maybe think more broadly about what will mean something to you now and in the future as well. Some of these ways and rituals call for some pre-planning, others are more expressive, and I also love the idea of creating a new heirloom for generations of your family to look to in the future, to cherish. Before I start giving you the list and letting you know how you might be able to incorporate them into your wedding day, I think it's super important to understand how pivotal, layered with meaning, and sometimes also tinged with a sense of closure and scary new beginnings, that a new marriage that involves children from the relationship or outside of the relationship can feel like for different people of different ages. Because what's really happening here is the coming together of two or sometimes even more families. And weddings often represent the blending of families, and there often can be an emotional impact on children and other family members. Sometimes this is not even a conscious thing, but people, and I'm sure you've seen it or heard about it, can easily start acting out in the lead up to the wedding and not even know why themselves. It can be really important to acknowledge and discuss these emotions well in advance, as always, in particular with the child or children that this affects. And by including a discreet and sensitive reference of this change during your wedding ceremony is a way that parents or step-parents can ease that transition while also validating and recognising their roles in this new family. I also want to acknowledge the potential emotional sensitivities around blended families. Some children may feel unsure about the changes or need some reassurance. And sometimes when you're involving children in a wedding ceremony, and it's depending on their personalities and their age as well, it can help them feel included. It can help them feel really important. But equally, it might just feel like added pressure and potentially terrifying. It all depends on the emotional temperature of your relationship and their acceptance of it and where they are in their lives as well. So I feel like a broken record here, but I'd highly recommend discussing these ideas with your child, children, stepchildren in advance. All these discussions need to happen like a long way away from your wedding day because you want to gauge their comfort and their willingness level to participate. creating a public display of love, unity, and respect through a personalised ritual. And yeah, when I say that word, please don't think like me. This is where I'm coming from. When I say ritual, it feels like something sinister. I don't know where that comes from, but it must be very deep in my subconscious. It feels like sacrificing small animals. That's a ritual. So maybe don't think of that. You could perhaps think of ritual as a repetitive action, process, or event that represents deeper religious, cultural, or social significance. So in this context, as I'm a civil or non-denominational, non-religious celebrant, when I say ritual, I'm simply referring to a process that holds deep significance for a blended family. Now, I'm going to do my very best to explain these in detail, to paint a picture of these 8 rituals, these 8 ways for you. And if you're more of a visual learner, you could check out the blog post at unbridely.com, which is called 8 Blended Family Unity Rituals for Your Wedding Ceremony. God, that's really long. Okay, I'm going to say it again. 8 Blended Family Unity Rituals for Your Wedding Ceremony, and then in brackets, that haven't been done to death. I'll also add a link in the show notes, the description underneath the podcast episode title, so you can just click on and you can go straight to it. But let's go with 8 unique ways to recognize and include your blended family members in your wedding ceremony. Okay, we're going to kick off with number 1, which is, I think, my personal favorite, and that's because it includes food. Lollies, to be precise, or candy if you're in the States. And this is a lolly or candy blending unity family ritual. A sweet and fun twist on the traditional unity sand ceremony, when each family member contributes a different coloured sand into a particular jar or a beautiful frame. Sometimes it's a picture frame, it's got the family there, and you have the family pour the different layers of sand and it fills up behind the picture and it's really pretty, and they put it on display after. In this ritual, each family member has their own little cup. It has their name on the outside so they know it's theirs. And it can be like on a little table. I think the picture that's in my blog post, there's almost like imagine a round steel, very low rim, almost like a breakfast tray, but it's made of steel. It's got the little cups all around the outside, and in the middle, a big glass jar which says family, or it might say, if you're all taking the same name, it might say that name, Smith. And the idea is that each member of the family has their little cup there, and inside is their favourite lolly or candy. So, what would I have? I like raspberries. Raspberries are nice. What else? Do you know what I really like? I really like Jersey caramels. I reckon mine would have Jersey caramels. Or maybe bullets. Chocolate-coated licorice, those little, bullets. So, I'd have that in my cup, for example. And, it comes to the part of the ceremony, and whoever's running your ceremony can say, the family comes together, they're contributing their favourite lolly to the family jar, which symbolises their unique flavour and their contribution to the new family unit, knowing that when they're together, life will be sweeter and they can appreciate each family's unique traits, etc., things like that. And then the family come up and they pour their lollies into the jar, and someone steals a lolly and someone goes, hey, none of that. And then they eat some, and then they laugh, and there's a few photos, and then they sit down. I love that. It's simple. It's super fun. It's sweet. It's going to rot someone's teeth, but I like the playfulness, I think, of that one. Okay, so number 1, lolly or candy blending unity family ritual. Number 2 is a painting ritual. So the idea here is that you would have a canvas. You could have any size canvas, but obviously if you're trying to do this in a ceremony context, you need it big enough for your guests to be able to see. It would be ideal if the canvas was on an easel. So, it's up a little bit higher, people can see it, a little bit big. And There's a million different ways to personalise it, of course, but one of the simplest that I love is the idea of getting a nice thick, what would it be? Like 3 centimetre-ish, inch-ish wide masking tape, like the good masking tape that really seals, the stuff you might use to mask off when you're painting, a skirting board or something like that. And you get that masking tape, and this is the preparation before, and using a light, lead pencil, you could sketch out the shape of a heart, filling, as much of your canvas space as possible. And you put the piece of masking tape on that heart, sealing it down really well, both sides, gorgeous. And then during the ceremony, the celebrant, officiant, whoever is running this thing, would call the family members up, and every family member gets their very own colour. Obviously, you choose your favourite colour, right? So, I reckon I'd have orange, like a burnt orange, really like that. So we have the different colours of paint in like tomato sauce bottles, like what would we call it? Ketchup bottles, mustard bottles. They have that little tip at the top. Sometimes they have a little closure there. So then you can have, however many members of the family are doing this, little ketchup bottles of their favourite colours. It depends on how casual your wedding is too. I can see some families just going nuts and squirting the paint like all over the canvas and going crazy and maybe getting some paint on themselves, and then it's all very funny. You could use paint brushes if you don't want to get too dirty. You could put a big smock on if you don't want to get too crazy. There's different ways of managing the mess. I think what I love most is the idea of squirting the paint, like really getting a thick zigzag across the canvas, and then it just gets put to one side. No one touches it, no one smears it. It just, it goes to one side. It's going to take quite a bit of time because that paint is going to be super thick if you're squirting it on with a ketchup bottle. But once it's dried, completely dried, you can carefully peel off that little heart shape that you made with the masking tape. And of course, that area will be paint-free, but the background will be full of these beautiful swirls, zigzags of all different colours that represent the different members of your family. And there's your artwork, people. Put it up on the wall. Another shape you could make with the masking tape would be the first initial of your family surname. Or if you're not all going to be taking the same surname, an and sign, an ampersand. Sketch it out with a bit of lead pencil, stick it on with that really secure masking tape, and use that as art decor in your home. So number 2, unity painting ritual. Let's face facts. You've always been the planner and the organiser, and your fiancé's eyes glaze over a little when you start talking about the details of your wedding day. But you really need someone to share this all with, to bounce ideas off, and someone who's not going to ruin the surprises, but also be supportive and maybe even offer a different perspective. So when you're needing to get a second opinion about your bridesmaid, your in-laws, or your first dance song, Unbridely Couples is your safe space. Unbridely hosts a private Facebook community where modern engaged couples can share ideas, chat and solve problems, and generally just get freaking excited about their wedding. We also have a curated list of experienced wedding vendor professionals in there to offer suggestions and tips, insight into how to get the most out of your big day. But with no unsolicited DMs or pushy sales tactics, it's just not what Unbridely is about. So you can search for the Unbridely Couples group on Facebook or just click on the link in the show notes. I'll see you in there. Number 3 is a can stone building ceremony. You might not know what a can is. Not Cairns, the Northern Queensland city. God, love you guys in Cairns. But a can, CAIRN, is a human-made stack of stones which can be used for a variety of purposes. They can be markers, they can be monuments, Sometimes they're wayfinders on paths. They can even be memorials to someone who's passed away. In fact, thinking about cans, up past Palm Cove, there's a little rocky beach that I've driven past once with my family, and there was a whole stack of cans. Like everyone had gone there, looked at the view, and then built their very own. It's not great to build a can out and about and on paths and things like that out in nature. And I might link the article that I read about why you shouldn't go out and build cans out in the wilderness or at the beach or on a track or things like that just for fun. But you can make your very own can and have your can building ritual in your wedding ceremony. Building a rock can as a family symbolises the creation of a strong foundation and unique family identity, as each family member has their own stone that they put on the top of the one below. It's simple yet powerful, and it can be a sculpture that could be displayed in your home or garden afterwards. And if you and your family are big about nature, are big about the outdoors, it could really be appropriate, like relevant for you. So 3, can stone building ceremony. 4 is a family initial creative project. So you can buy capital letters. So, imagine a big H or something like that, 40, 50 centimetres high, similar wide, and they're made of wood and the letters are hollow. So you could fill that letter H with whatever you want. And again, if you're not going to be sharing the same last name, you could use an ampersand or an and sign. And during the wedding ceremony, your celebrant or officiant could refer to the letter. It's the letter H. It's for the Hamlin family. I don't know. And you could fill it with whatever you want, like whatever you like. Mini succulents look awesome. So if you had real plants, you'd need like a reinforced initial, maybe made of steel. You'd need holes drilled in the bottom for drainage. I have seen where families have used imitation, fake succulent plants in an initial, and you can nestle them into the hollow cardboard and decorate it with fairy lights. It's an indoor decor piece. Little kids love filling the hollow wooden initials with things that are fun. It could be a toy of a particular colour. It could be coloured felt balls, like those little fluffy balls. Tommy gets the blue ones and Jimmy gets the red ones and Jessie gets the green ones. And it looks awesome when they stuff them all in there. Or another idea, corks. If you imagine corks like pressed down into a hollow wooden initial, the beautiful stains from the different wines makes them all different colours, or you could have them with the tops up, so then there might be a stamp from the vineyard or the winery where the wine was made. And if you have adult kids, you could put those corks in there from the bottles of wine that you shared with them. So it's an evolving piece in that way. The idea is that whatever fills that initial, it would represent your family's shared passions and values. And this artwork can evolve with the family, making it meaningful and creative to display in your home now and later on too. Idea 5 is the family coin or family crest pendant necklace gift. So presenting a family coin or a pendant necklace with a family crest during the ceremony, it symbolises the value. A coin, literally value. There's the currency. It's worth something. It's saying that family, sticking together, unity, being a part of a team is valuable. A coin or a family crest pendant can also be a timeless keepsake that can be passed down through generations, emphasising the importance of family before everything. Idea 6 is a family sign ritual. So looking behind this is when the ceremony begins and each family member enters the space, that they'd carry a letter that spells out family or might spell out your last name, depending, the number of letters in your name, the number of kids you've got. Might not work out, but it might. And everyone would take their letter. I can imagine, something, maybe letters made of wood that are painted. It could be ceramic letters that are decorated with like a tile mosaic. There are lots of different ways you could do it. But when each family member enters the ceremony space, you could use the certificate signing table or another specified surface, but near the front of the ceremony where people can see it. And the first member, let's say we're spelling family. First member has the letter F, walks up, puts it on the far left of whatever that surface is, and sits down. Everyone comes in and contributes literally to the family, to maybe the last name. It's a minimal but heartfelt gesture that visually represents the coming together of your family. Idea number 7 is a unity puzzle board ritual. So each family member would bring together a piece of the puzzle that represents their place within the family, and fitting the pieces together, how sometimes puzzles don't fit, how you've got to jostle them a little bit, you've got to push that one over there, you've got to knock this one in with your fist. It shows how the whole family becomes stronger and more beautiful when everyone is united. I love that. I think that's really cool. And of course, that puzzle board could be displayed in the family home afterwards. Idea number 8 is a fingerprint jewellery gift presentation. Though the jewellery would need to be created in advance, obviously no one's sitting there, I don't think anyone's sitting there with molten metals and pressing them into moulds and things like that. The gifting of an explanation about the unique piece with each family member's fingerprint can be done during the ceremony, and the jewellery itself can be presented as a lasting keepsake and symbolising everyone's bond and presence in the new family. Unique, of course, unique as a fingerprint and the combination of all of you coming together. Now, of course, I'd encourage you to take the kernel of these ideas and run with them a bit. Adapt these rituals to fit and suit your particular family dynamics and the things you love, the things you value, what means something to you. I've seen couples customise these ideas and other rituals during ceremonies that I've conducted over the years. It makes it more their own. They're not just going through the motions going, this is a ritual, this means we're coming together. It's something they want to do. It's something they're excited to do and share with all of their guests as well. So just to recap, those 8 ways, 8 rituals that you can use to symbolise your blended family coming together are, number 1, the lolly or candy blending unity family ritual. Number 2, the family unity painting ritual. Number 3, can rock building ceremony. Number 4, a family initial creative project. Number 5, a family coin or family crest pendant necklace gift. Number 6, a family sign ritual. Number 7, a unity puzzle board. And number 8 is a fingerprint jewellery gift presentation. It's always a good day when we can recognise the importance of celebrating the blending of families, especially during a wedding ceremony where we take a second to go, fuck, aren't we lucky to have found each other and to be coming together? And I invite you to get creative and make your ceremony a true reflection of your family's journey. If you've got some stories about how you've included and recognised and paid tribute to your own blended family in your wedding ceremony, you can DM me at Unbridely on Instagram, or you can email me at any old time, hello@unbridely.com. And I can't wait to share with you some New York elopement stories next week. That about wraps it up for this episode of the Unbridely podcast. For the links and resources we mentioned, please head to the show notes. And if you love the show, please review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're on now so you don't miss out on a single episode. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, weddings are a team sport. Catch you soon.